Well, hey, real estate fans, welcome back to the podcast for Southern Oregon. I'm Alice Lema, broker with John O. Scott Real Estate in beautiful Southern Oregon, best place in the world to live, I think. Today, we're going to have a really fun conversations. We're going to be talking about how elections affect home prices, sales, and mortgage rates, how they affect all of those items historically. And I think you'll be surprised. So first, we're going to start with the chief economist at Zonda weighing in on this, Ali Wolf, and I quote, usually home sales are unchanged compared to a non-election year, with the exception of being November. In an election year, November is slower than normal. And then she goes on to say that there's a rebound in December or so, which is pretty quick. So I would hardly call that a downturn. But in the digital age, something to start keeping in mind. Home buyers and sellers, keep in mind everything's digital now, so things are happening more quickly. So the downturn, we do have people holding off right now for the election, and this is not a political podcast. We're just being data driven because that's why we're here, give you data. And so there are people that are waiting to buy and the people that are waiting to sell. My advice consistently is you do what works for your life, and we'll work around the markets. Timing the markets is really hard. But to get back to the election idea, at least this chief economist at Zonda is saying not much changes. So the Department of Housing and Urban Development, also the National Association of Realtors, published some data. I want to get this chart up here. This is for home prices. This is a graph for home prices and home sales. 9 of the last 11 presidential elections, so that goes back all the way to the 70s, home sales went up. Isn't that interesting? So home sales went up after 9 of the 11 presidential elections. So, and that graph is from HUD and also NAR. So that's super interesting. So what about home prices? Because that was home sales. So home prices, we've got a quote from a residential appraiser and housing analyst, Ryan Lundquist, and he says, and I quote, an election year doesn't alter price trends that are already happening in the market. And that is more what I would expect. So in our Southern Oregon, and we're kind of bouncing around between national and local, but in our area, our prices have gone down a little bit because of the extreme interest rate increases and also how long they're staying high. So our prices did have to accommodate some of that. And it's kind of like a teeter-totter, but it didn't go down that much. It's not crashing. The home prices are not altering in a huge way, but they are soft and they are down a little bit in the lower price ranges. The higher price ranges, they're actually, that's kind of where we're having our multiple offers, which is interesting, but that's a different podcast. So back to elections. Home prices during elections don't really change that much. We do have an upward trend over the decades of home prices just in general. So, and that's true in Southern Oregon as well. And then we've got another chart here. This is out of seven out of the last 8 presidential elections, home prices did go up, and the exception was for the crash. And that was just a one-time, hopefully, one-time thing. We're all thinking of it as a one-time thing. But this is an interesting chart, and this is from NAR. And that's 7 of the last 8 presidential elections, home prices went up. Okay, let's talk about mortgage rates. Mortgage rates, according to Lisa, the chief economist at Bright MLS, historically, the housing market doesn't tend to look very different presidential elections compared to other years. But again, we want to have a chart up here. These are mortgage rates. Looking at the last 11 presidential election years, and this is data from Freddie Mac, it shows mortgage rates typically decrease from July to November in 8 of the last Yeah, 8 in the last 11 presidential elections. So that would be great if that would happen here. But I'll tell you what, if the interest rates do go down, this is by Alice predicting if they go down as much as 0.5%, excuse me, 0.5% or more, that is going to change the prices. And we could go back into bidding wars because we're still in a low inventory environment. And that was not taken into consideration necessarily in these reports. So this is just an unusual scenario. We do have more inventory than we did this time last year for the most part, but that is changing sometimes week to week, sometimes month to month. But the mortgage rates for the most part have historically seen a little bit of a decline. And if that does happen in our situation, we will talk about it on the podcast because that's what we do. We keep track of it so that you all can be good consumers when you're buying and selling your real estate. So that is our podcast for this week. So for the most part, things don't change. But again, I have to preface that with what a weird world we are in right now. We could not have predicted a lot of what we're dealing with when we're buying and selling houses, and the world event impact, the economic impact, and now the election. So I would really love it if you would give me a call or give me a text. I want to be your real estate agent, great listing agent, great buyer's agent. Call me, text me, 541-301-7980. That's 541-301-7980. And let's talk about what I can do to help you further your real estate goals, even during chaotic world times and an election year. We'll make it happen. Have a beautiful Southern Oregon weekend. Hug those you love. Bye now.